Okay, good morning, everybody. I'll try to do a little update. Uh, Today's date, let's see. Okay, July 3rd, 2018. All right. It could be a teaching, but I want to do issues as well. Oh, a little talking about websites, and then we'll do some current events. I have a lot of different websites, and one of the ones I recently reestablished is called Medium. Medium it's kind of based on, I had it for a while actually. I write them up there, but it's kind of like supposed to promote, you know, writers and all. And I used to, when I do these different websites, I just look at all the ones that are free websites and then figure post as much teaching as we can and get it out there, to get it links out there and all. And then Medium said they were a free site, like many of the others. I had Mozilla and Wixsite and all these. And then after a while, it says, then you got to pay to join. I didn't mind paying $5 a month. It's just I don't like being tricked. Some will tell you up front you have like a 14-day free trial. And I don't like that. But I decided I'll go ahead and pay the $5 a month. The concept is, I read a few things, like if you want to read stuff that writers put on there, like myself, they charge other people. Like if you want to read all the other, I don't go to websites to read primarily. I read on things that I just simply Google something and then I'll read that, but not just like to go to one website to learn. But I figured the $5 was worth it. Now I've been uploading a lot of my past posts just to get them on there and then to regularly do like the every other day post. And I noticed yesterday there's a limit on how many you can put on there. Okay, that's fine. I might have posted like 12 or 13 and then as you put the tags, Christianity, religion, God, Jesus, it'll always recommend a tag for you. Like the next one will come up from the philosophy post that I do then. And then right near the end, the recommended tag was comics. Meaning there was somebody, more than likely, a smart kid, said, we're gonna, so of course I removed the tag comic. And then it said, you've reached your limit today. That was yesterday. So I went to just post now, and it says, you've reached your limit today, which I did not, because I didn't post on Medium today. Now, I don't mind. I should be able to cancel that $5 if it's kids playing games, like what happens on some other websites. People that have particular points of view, most of the times they're liberal points of view, which I hold to some. But then so there is a game being played, but we'll see what happens on that later. The other night, the recent news is Anthony Kennedy, one of the justices of the Supreme Court, has decided to leave. I think he was on the court for 30 years. Mr. Kennedy was considered sort of like in the middle. Sometimes he would be a swing vote. And the court would be, it's 9 justices on the Supreme Court. And so if you had what was called conservative bench, liberal bench, and so now that Mr. Kennedy is leaving, the debate is, will Mr. Trump put, if you will, a pro-life justice on the court? But you have these same debates both with the liberal side and the conservative side, whether Mr. Obama's president or Mr. Trump, whoever. And then as I listened to the debate, what this, for those that don't follow a lot of things, what this deals with is an issue in our country that was one for a long time, particularly in my mind. It's the late-term abortions that take place. For the people that are speaking on these things, and I've seen media people mock these things, and I would ask you, did you ever see a dead baby? Actually, we had there was a fire when I was at the fire department many years ago. And it was on Santa Gertrudis Street in Kingsville. And of course, we had a lot of house fires as a firefighter. But I'll never forget that one, because the people were in the house was on fire, they got out of the house, but they told us there was their baby inside. Now, the baby might have only been a few months old. And I remember in the back room, as the smoke cleared out, we went in, that baby was just there on the bed, dead, kind of foaming at the mouth. And I still remember that image. Of course, you could not resuscitate that child. The attempts were made. Now, many people right now in this country are now the more liberal, or if you will, moderate senator from Maine, Susan Collins. She was on the news shows. There's the other woman, senator from Alaska, I forget her, Lisa Murkowski. Okay, these are two Republican senators that will have a say-so in whoever Mr. Trump puts up for the Supreme Court. And I heard some of them speaking that, are we going to allow the either outlawing of abortion, which it used to be illegal in this country until the Roe v. Wade decision, or are we going to allow Trump to put somebody in that might overturn settled law? And I listened to some of the people speak, Susan Collins. It's difficult to listen to her speak, as she's not a good speaker. But she was saying stare decisis and settled law. And even Martha Raddatz, who's supposed to be a news person, as she's interviewing, now if you're a journalist, you're just trying to find out positions and all. But as she's interviewing as a so-called news person, she's asking this Republican senator, are we going to allow abortion to then possibly become illegal again? We can't allow this. Now, if that's Mrs. Raddatz's view, that's fine. Like, it's the view of many people, not mine. But you're no longer a journalist when you're just advocating. And I know people don't understand that. And before I decided to even speak on this particular thing of will the Supreme Court finally have even a more conservative view and possibly outlaw particularly late-term abortion, like the child I saw that was dead. That's the same development of children that are being aborted right up until 1 second before they're born. That is legal in this country. And I thought the other night, should I speak on it? I said, no, I'm going to wait. And the first verse, I was in the middle of reading a chapter, because I read various chapters and then I mark where I stopped. But the first verse where I came back to, right when I said, I'm not going to discuss it, was Jesus in, Luke 18, verse 15. That's where I stopped like 2 days earlier. I read various Old Testament, New Testament, and pick up. And it says, and they brought unto him infants, that he would touch them. But when his disciples saw it, they rebuked them. But Jesus called and said, suffer little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for such is the kingdom of God. It was interesting. Of course, King James says infants. Other translations say children. But it was just interesting because in all of the debate, now many people, whether journalists, media, on the left side of the aisle, many people are fighting. This has become another fight. Will we go back to coat hanger abortions? Meaning if it's illegal. But then the question should be, of course we don't want people to stick coat hangers in themselves to kill something. When you had a doctor up in the Northeast, by the way, I forget if it was Pittsburgh but it was the famous abortion doctor, forget his name. But what he was doing was in his abortion clinic, which was dirty, he was allowing, if you're doing an abortion legally and the woman is very developed, sometimes the children come out alive. It's legal if a woman is even 8.5 months pregnant and she goes in for an abortion. It's legal through various ways, means suction catheter or whatever, to go into the womb and to sever the limbs of the child, crush the skull. This is a procedure that we do in this country. But there are times where the baby comes out alive. And there are times where the arms are severed in late-term abortion, and that baby comes out and dies, of course, does not live long, and is screaming. Now, how anybody can feel that their argument now to continue for that to go on is their argument is a just, righteous advocating, that you're deluded if your position is we want that to continue. You just got to look at the baby. But this particular doctor, I forget his name now, famous case, when the kids came out, sometimes during the abortion, they come out alive. And this is not uncommon. I'm not saying it's very common, but it's not uncommon. And what he did, and others have done, is if the woman's there, the child is like a regular baby, and it makes it out alive. You try to kill it before it comes out, but then it comes out alive. Sometimes they would put them in a basket, let them cry for a little while, and then they die, especially some of the severe injuries. So he allowed that to happen, and some nurses reported him. Now this man stood charges and rightfully went to prison. But what the media said was, look how unclean that clinic was, this abortion clinic from the Northeast. Look how dirty it was. We cannot allow something like that to go on. Meaning, if everything was sanitary, if you can take war and it comes forth in a way where it's like sanitary, maybe a respectable president engages in a war, and we made decisions, and we all look on our media and all, and we watch the pictures and all of our military, these wonderful military, but then we don't look at the actual deaths, killings. So what we have done is we have sanitized an act. And you hear me talk a lot about late-term abortion. And I do understand that the Christian view of many people is all abortion is wrong. And I'm not for any abortion. But I would say that even anybody, whether they have a religious background or not, if you look at that late developed child, and then you look at the aftermath, the procedures, anybody with any humanity would say, we're not against the women, but surely we can regulate something in the country that if a woman has an unwanted pregnancy or a pregnancy from a rape or whatever it is, surely we can have something that says how you're going to deal with that, we need to deal with it in the first or second trimester. Now that's a view that a lot of Christians don't hold. But all I'm trying to say is to allow that child to be so formed that 1 second after it's out, it is a regular human like you or me. Like you that are advocating Miss Collins and everybody. It's a person. And then to say that but 1 second before it's out of the womb, it's not only good to kill it, because some have celebrated that as a right. The decision on Roe v. Wade legally was questionable because it's called the right to privacy. Meaning it wasn't based upon, is that a life? It was based upon a woman's right to privacy. And there are liberal scholars who say that that's a bad decision because they found that and it's not really in the Constitution. Now, that's a legal debate. But you don't have to look at one. You can look at what I just showed you. But you have many in the media, many journalists who are advocating right now that how dare anybody try to stop what I just described? How dare anybody try to say, in a moderate way, if we're going to deal with the problems in society, we should never allow that baby to be severed in that manner 1 second before it comes out of the womb. We should be able to regulate that if we have certain instances where women say, for whatever reason, we've got to deal with that early on in pregnancy, okay? And to say, for a political reason, that we're going to permit that. And anybody that would want to, those who say, like Ms. Collins, the senator from Maine, yesterday I heard her say, she said, it's established, settled law. Therefore, we can't change it. Do you know, we've had some horrendous decisions about race that the court has made. You had Dred Scott decision. The Dred Scott decision by the Supreme Court was, there was a black man who was a slave. And the slave owner of the black man, who was white, died. But the white woman still claimed ownership over the black slave. But the black slave made it to the North. Now you're talking 1800s. And in the North, late 1800s. But in the North, he was there for a period of time. And he brought his case to the court, ultimately, and said, I'm free now. I'm living in the... But the woman said, you're my property. She still lived in the South. And it went to the court. This is Dred Scott. And the court said, Mr. Black man, you are that white woman's property. And we've made that decision as the court, the Supreme Court. And that man stayed a slave. Now that was settled law for, I think, 58 years. And you have Susan Collins, you have journalists, and you have many others right now saying, whatever is settled law, meaning if the courts have decided on a decision, that decision should never be changed. Are you racist? You would have sided with the court and that decision standing, because eventually it was overturned, rightfully so. Rightfully so. The infamous Dred Scott decision was overturned after 50-something years. And so everybody right now in this debate going on, many in the media and many on both sides of the aisle are saying, Roe v. Wade is settled law. And once we recognize something to be settled, it should never be changed. Those are the same people that would have kept you, if you are a black man or woman, those are the same arguments that would have kept you in chains. Okay? Remember that.